I'm big into vultures, actually.
I want a lover, courageous and real.
It's all so bizarre. All right, well, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you all for coming. It's nice to kick off the night. It's really a treat. And it's a complete honor to be, I can't really call it sharing, but, warming up, wiping down the stage for the fabulous Lydia lunch, but to be invited here also by one of my newest besties, Jane Handel, is pretty wonderful. So on Tuesday, the three of us got to spend a luxurious afternoon together, and I came away thinking about what we're going to bring to you tonight. And we're all very kindred and very different. And so what I really thought about was that tonight you get to hear and feel and experience three very unique and different forms and definitions of the word fearless. So I invite you to join us in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, here we go. The Falling. Sunday, April 21st, 1:22 p.m. Now playing Licity Collins, Scrambled. It's running through my head. It's a new song. The first line is, I can't believe I'm falling in love with you. What a ridiculous thing to do. Something ridiculous happened to me recently. I fell in love. Don't get excited. I got dumped this past Tuesday. Yesterday, Saturday, was a long day waiting for this love to call, which he did not. He had dumped me on Tuesday with very little warning, and I spent the next 3 days writing 25 pages of notes to make some sense of the anguish and confusion so I could be ready for a conversation he had agreed we would have in person. On Tuesday, he said 3 times that he would call me. Saturday morning to set up a time, he did not. I spent the day wailing, weeping, exclaiming shock, and tearing at my chest. I wanted us to stay in love or one day be in love again. At the end of the day, I was exhausted. I'd come up with a funky bass line, and I was facing the reality that I had to let the idea of us go. I see myself as a bird in the sky, flying high, effortlessly like a vulture gliding on thermals, wings spread and soaring, no need to even flap that often, trusting that the warm air will carry me in the direction I want and adjusting when it doesn't. I'm big into vultures, actually. They have an unnecessary bad reputation, which I've never understood. We use the word vulture to label opportunistic evil beings descending on vulnerable situations for self-serving purposes. This cannot be further from the real lives of vultures. They come down to the earth to eat the dead animals that murderous predators have left behind. They are carnivorous, but not predatory in the way their reputation suggests. They are the cleanup crew. They have developed featherless heads and highly acidic stomachs so that they can dig into the discarded carcasses yet resist infections. One type of vulture is the only vertebrate to specialize in eating bones. They're fucking brilliant. I am one of them, except for the bald head part. We both dive into the wreckage of life and come out with something nutritious. We both defecate the digested entrails onto our feet as a method of cleaning and protection. We both vomit up the food we have eaten to feed those in need. We find nothing at all in the world to be dirty. We put everything to use. Ask anyone who knows me, and they'll tell you I can take any situation, digest it, and vomit out something that will feed you. And I like being high in the sky. I feel safe up there, removed, unassailable, above everyone, offering pearls of understanding and perspective to people in concise little stories and nature metaphors. It's annoying. It annoys me. It annoys most of my friends, I'm sure, and I'm certain it has annoyed each and every one of my loves. That skill of being able to digest the good out of everything can make a person into a sidewalk guru. I admit, it's bullshit. It's just a defense mechanism I have to make sure no one ever challenges me, and I never get close to anyone. Not really. It's not that I'm afraid to grow. I work on myself like a full-time job. is that I'm afraid of anyone else telling me how I need to grow. That scares the shit out of me. A couple of people have called BS on it, but some people like it. They compliment me on my wisdom. But now I'm finally calling BS on myself. I don't want to fly high up in the sky where I'm alone and untouchable. I'm lonely. I long to be touched. Falling in love felt like someone had shot me out of the sky. I was a mess. I have very little practice at love, and I suck at it. I was overtaken, possessed by it, completely overwhelmed, oriented towards the person and disoriented away from my life, my creative work, what had previously been my somewhat meaningful life. Before I derailed my life into this person, he and I had a really fun and easy friendship, playful, full of humor, flirtatious, creative, easy. Once love entered the picture, once the bullet struck me in one of my wings, I fell to the ground, crippled, limping, useless, unable to function except for the next word, message, call, visit, touch from him until he reaffirmed his love for me daily. I felt lost and that I had lost him. I told myself it was wonderful because it was love, and I told him I was crippled and that he should care for my wounds. None of that is sexy. And so for that, and a bunch of much other large reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with me, he dumped me on Tuesday. I went to the beach. I sat on a rock. I tried to let the ocean calm me, but it did not. After an hour, believe it or not, a vulture flew down in front of me. About 10 feet ahead, it began to eat a dead bird that was on the shore. I watched. Vultures are nervous on the ground, just like I am, always looking over their shoulders, and so it's a rare treat to observe one up close for any length of time. I savored it, knowing at any moment it could get freaked and fly off. I watched it stand on top of the dead bird, holding it down with its feet and wrestle the guts from inside of it. I thought about how vultures need to come down to the ground to eat. And I had just been told early in the week that birds need to come down to the ground to mate. Who can have a meal or sex mid-flight? I'm sure some bird out there can do it, but I bet it's a challenge. I honestly have to say I'm grieving the loss of the proposed prospect of sex with him a lot, really. Just the thought of him would get me wet. That hadn't happened that much in my life, and I've had a lot of sex with a lot of people. Good sex, too. Screaming, cursing, banging on the wall the neighbors might call the police sex. Until the last few years when, for various reasons, I've had none. I haven't missed the sex, to be honest. I find sex boring and how predictable and repetitive it is, always rehashing the same ideas to arrive at the same predetermined conclusion. It's such a stale plot, a beginning, a middle, and voila, the end. Everyone seems so self-satisfied, surprised, even impressed at that end, as if it were a revelation, when to me, it's just the same thing that happened last time. Then there are those people who see my orgasms as their accomplishments. It's all so bizarre. I need to play sex in a realm of infinite play, not finite strategy. I want someone to write the story of sex with me as if it were to last into an unknown eternity. It's the same way I feel about gardening and music. I have for a very long time said that the one kind of sex I've always wanted to try but never had, the kind I thought would not bore me, is the kind of sex where you are actually in love with the person. That would be a new and wonderful adventure for me. I know that real love is infinite, ever-changing, new every day. This is the kind of sex I wanted, the kind of sex that even when the person touches me in the same place, the same way, it feels new and exciting because they are and I am a new person every day. You only understand that when you are in love with someone. This promised that. I wanted to have sex with him not for the sex, but to be inside of the love. But like I said, it's over. He forgets the things he says to me. This was something I pointed out very early to our connection. He said I should not put stock in his words. That seemed like such a strange thing to say. Did he want permission to say anything at all to me and not ever be held accountable? I said that words are important to me. I am, after all, a writer of both songs and prose. Words are how I communicate my deepest feelings and my most profound thoughts. A friend had cautioned me to pay more attention to his actions, but I didn't know how to do that. I learned that only yesterday, how to let someone show you, not tell you how they feel about you. I sat and waited for his call, realizing the not calling was a stronger reality than the 3 promises to call. The action is always greater than the words. I get that now. But words romance and captivate me, and his words, the words he seems to have forgotten, just like his promises to call. Words like, I adore you. You are my angel. I am never giving you up. You are so special to me. I'm gonna be so good to you. Well, they were some of the most beautiful words anyone had ever said to me, ever. I grew up in a home where no one ever said, I love you. No one, it wasn't said. That's not entirely true, I said it. It would usually come out in one of my family's semi-platonic awkward hugs. You know, the kind with the tense pats on the back that make you feel like you can't get too at ease. They never let you relax into the person's arm, but instead make you feel like their golfing buddy. I would try to infuse those hugs with emotion, the emotion I thought they were meant to express. I'd say, I love you. And my family members, every one of them, sisters, fathers, mother, would give the same response. They would laugh. I'm not lamenting about my childhood. I know I'm an adult and that stuff happens to everyone. But families are where we are forged, like irons into a fire, into permanent shapes. Let's continue with the extended all-you-can-eat metaphor buffet we've got going here. Forged and hammered, that's what my family was like. I don't know how other people's families were, but mine was like a blazing fire and the hammer of a shrewd blacksmith, and I got hammered and bent into a specific shape, which I suppose, if I follow the metaphor, would need something equally hot in order to unbend me. Without that kind of blazing heat, I cannot be reshaped out of the tool I was shaped into. Perhaps I cannot be reshaped at all, only repurposed, used, hopefully for something better. See how annoying my wisdom metaphors are? I'm just trying to find a use for my broken heart. I am a vulture, after all. I have to make use of the dead left behind by others, even when I am the carcass. I think that I loved him more than he loved me. I think that's been the case with nearly everyone I've loved, except maybe for my best friend in high school, who loved me with resounding reciprocity until I actually fell in love with her. Then she, like the others, found my love overwhelming and backed away. The capacity to receive love, maybe that's where I am closed. I suppose anyone thinks that falling in love feels like being shot out of the sky might be a bit guarded. I guess this is what I need to work on, receptivity. When I was in 4th grade, my teacher had taken a summer trip to the Philippines. She came back entrenched in everything Filipino, teaching us of culture and customs. It was her theme for quite some time. There's one thing she told us, though, which I will never forget. For some reason, it formed a habit in me I've had tremendous trouble breaking ever since. She told us that in the Philippines, since certain items like Coca-Cola are rare, this was in the 80s, that when someone offers a Coke to you, you should, out of politeness, turn it down the first time. Then the ritual is they offer it to you again, and then you accept it. What a wonderful dance of graciousness, respect, humility, and gratitude. I fell in love with it immediately. And it became a habit. So I am a shitty receiver because I turn everything down the first time. The problem is that I am not in the Philippines in 1981, and no one else knows this strange custom I have adopted. When I turn something down, people take me at my word that I don't want it, and they withdraw their offer and a part of themselves. And I am left longing, waiting for them to re-offer. Meanwhile, I have unintentionally rejected love and the person. I am left not knowing how to get any of it back. The best I have done is to realize I do this and explain the story about my 4th grade teacher by way of an apology, and then tell them I really do want the thing they offered. It's a lot to go through for a soda, or a glass of water, or maybe the love of my life. I blame my impressionable fourth grade mind, but in truth, I just don't know how to say yes to love. My new album is called Love, Courage, Yes. And I have been touting this quote of my own contrivance. When you come face to face with love, the most courageous thing you can do is say yes. It's a pretty good hook. I believe that love can ask you to do extraordinary things, and we must find the courage to do what love asks. But in truth, perhaps, I think it takes courage to say yes to love because love itself scares the crap out of me. So where does that leave me, us, you and I, here in this rumination we've been having? It leaves me to tell you one thing, the one thing I did not tell him. I do not know if it would have made a difference, if it would have made him tell me the truth instead of all the beautiful words which dissipated into thin air. I did not tell him this because I was afraid of it, how he would react to it, and in my strange relationship with receptivity, withheld it so that I could receive it first. And that is not receptivity. That is manipulation and greed, fear and mistrust. I guess I mistrusted him all along. I suppose then it's good I did not give him these words. I will, though, one day when I can finally make known all I felt in our exchange, good and bad. I will tell him I need him to know, even after all the wailing and chest thrashing, withholding this is my only regret. And I will tell you, because I will never again withhold this. Turn it down if you must the first time, the second time, however many times. It is a permanent offering. It has always been that way with me. Once I give this, it goes to the person and stays with them, a part of me now carried with them or discarded. Whatever they wish to do with it is beyond my control. Maybe that's why it scares me so much. So that all that is here, all that is left here now between you and me, is for me to tell this to you. To tell you, I love you.